I'd like to call to order the Liberal City Commission meeting for this Tuesday, November the 14th. Can we have roll call, please?
Mayor DeNoyer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Martinez.
Here.
Commissioner Carlisle.
Here.
Commissioner Harrison.
Here.
And Commissioner Earl.
Here.
A quorum is present.
All right, will you please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Remain standing for the invocation as given by Pastor Jack Jacob. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, we come to you tonight with divided hearts. Father, we come to you tonight with a great need for you to bring healing to our community and to bring healing to our land. Father, we need you to give these public servants wisdom to govern. We need you to give the rest of us patience and understanding for them as they do the job. Father, we need for them to be able to see things they cannot see and hear things they cannot hear, and to be able to take all that in above the yell of the voices around them that are shouting for attention and only want their way. Father, many of them take time, much time away from these meetings, thinking about what is good for our city and how to balance the needs of workers and citizens and how to provide services and benefits. And there's just so much that goes into that so many people do not know. And so, Father, I pray for them that you would be with them through this meeting. I pray for those that have recently been elected, for they honestly have no idea what they're in for. I pray, God, that you would be with those that are about to finish their term. I pray, God, that you'd help them to finish their term ethically and morally as strong and as bright-eyed as when they came into this, however long ago that was. Father, I thank you for this land in which we live, where we get to participate in our own governance, where we get to share publicly our criticisms without fear of being arrested or sentenced to death, like in so many other countries. But Father, I pray that you give us wisdom, that we would use wisdom and discernment to share those things that are helpful and uplifting, and not just those things that are sensational or that destroy people's reputations. I pray, Father, that you'd help us to be a people that are able to meet others face to face and have conversations instead of hiding behind a keyboard and being vicious. Father, we need you to heal this community. We need you to heal this community so that businesses will know that this is a great place to come and grow. We need you to heal this community so that our teachers can teach and our students can learn. Our retirees can finish out their golden years. Our families can exist without the turmoil and fear that goes on. So, Father, we ask for your hand in this meeting, on our community, and on our land. And we pray for it in Jesus' name and for his glory. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, first item up on the agenda tonight is awards, proclamations, and presentations. I'm just going to call, see if Matt Quint is in attendance tonight. Is that Matt coming in the door? Nope, that's one of our agenda men. Okay, since Matt is not here, he was going to present to us the new adult supervisor for the rec department. We'll probably have that introduction maybe at our next meeting. Next item up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Harrison.
I'll second it.
Second by Vice Mayor Martinez. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 18th special meeting and the October 24th regular meeting. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, I'd call for a motion to approve as presented.
Your Honor, make a motion to approve the October 18th, 2017 special meeting and the October 24th, 2017 regular meeting minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Carlisle. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor Martinez. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is items from citizens. Are there any citizens in the audience that would like to address the commission on non-agenda items? All right, seeing one. Jack Jacob, I'll read the rules of the commission. Any citizen desiring to address the commission shall be recognized by the chair, advance to the podium, state his or her name and address in an audible tone for the record. Presentations shall be limited to 5 minutes unless extended by a vote of the majority of the commission. The commission does not hear matters involving litigation or city personnel. The commission does not take action on subjects not on the agenda unless an unusual or hardship condition exists. Citizens may address the commission on agenda items as they are brought to the floor. Sir, please state your name and address in an audible tone for the record.
My name is Jack Jacob. I live at 1627 North Nelson Avenue here in Liberal. And Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I just want to say to you that there are a number of us in this city that pray for you. That we, not everybody in this city thinks that you're ignorant. Not everybody thinks that you've done a bad job. Some of us that did not run for your office want you to know that every day we mention you before God and we pray for you and for the city. And I hope that the turmoil that we've gone through as a city will not cause you guys to question some of the work that you've done and been able to accomplish. And so as some of you roll off of this commission and go back into private life, we want to say to you, you've done some great things. Are you human? Absolutely. Have you made some mistakes? Every one of us have. And so for some of us to sit back and throw rocks at you for those mistakes is hypocritical. And we want to say to you, I want to say to you that I appreciate what you do. I don't understand all of what you do. I barely understand some of what I do. But I want to say to you, thank you for what you do. And please know that there are those of us who stand behind you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to address the commission on non-agenda items? Please come forward and state your name and address in an audible tone for the record. Yes, Rita.
Which one?
Rita.
Rita Isaacs, 406 Princeton. And no, you're planning on me talking about Zito, but that's not it. I was here 2 weeks ago for this commission meeting, and I'm sure every one of you know that I wrote a letter to the editor, and it has caused some dissension. I want clarification tonight. That means I'm going to ask each one of you individually how you feel about something, how you came about something. This is quite controversial about your contract. You know that. What I want to know is, number one, who determines there was time? Because I know it's usually a 2-year period. And so it was 1 year. All of a sudden, were all of you aware of this? Like a week, 2 weeks before? How soon did you know that this evaluation or this contract was going to be awarded?
I'm sorry, we're going to talk about personnel matter?
Well, I'm deferring to Shirley McQueen. Is this a matter of personnel? If it is, we will.
This would be a matter that was discussed in executive session, and I would recommend against discussing it.
Okay.
But this came out. This contract came out.
And it is a personnel.
So we're not allowed, we can or cannot discuss this.
You could not, I'm recommending that the commission not discuss what was discussed in executive session.
Oh, I don't know what was discussed in there. I don't know. All I know is what came out with the two contracts, and I did the comparison on it. I have no idea what you guys said in there. I want to know, clarify to me how you came about what we have here, why this controversy here. Who's the number one boss here? Is it the commissions, Mr. Hall, or you?
I'm not going to answer any of your questions, Rita.
Okay, all right. We elected you guys, and you hired Mr. Hall. Okay.
If you're asking that question, I'm glad to answer, give
Oh, I know you
my
are.
opinion on it.
I know you are.
Mr. Hall works for this city commission.
Okay.
He's the
and-
only person that actually works for it. Everybody else that works for the city works for Mr. Hall.
All right. Now, may I ask, she's not going to answer me, so I'll ask you guys. Who hires Ms. McQueen?
city manager to hire.
City
her.
manager.
Does she work for all of you?
Absolutely.
She works for the city.
But the city, all of our taxpayers pay her. She's not going to answer me. Is she aware of what goes on, like for the contract? Was she aware? Does she know? Who drew up the contract?
We're
Is
getting
that
in-
confidential?
Again, we are getting into matters of personnel.
Okay, so that's personal. You can't answer that either.
As a matter of personnel, as stated in the rules of the commission, which have been on the books for decades.
Yeah,
It's not
okay.
something that we created.
Okay. Can I ask, all right, that's executive also. When all the contracts came out, Mr. Carlisle is the only one objected to it. So it's out. We know about the contracts now. You know what they are. We all know the new one and the old one. We know that. We know who signed them. You and Mr. Hall and Joe DeNoyer. And I understand that. But was there a reason, can you answer this, was there a reason why that was pushed through so quickly with such a difference in what the contracts would say? Okay.
Once again, if I, without saying too much, it wasn't pushed through quickly. There's 5 guys sitting here that had an opportunity to do whatever they wanted to do with the contract. We could have extended executive session for 2 days if we needed to.
Well, this
It
was
got
the
done
deal.
like it was done, and it's done, it's finished.
Well, but I need clarification. If I'm going to back you guys, and I'm here, you know, every time the door opens, I'm going to be here. I want to know, what am I thinking about? What am I talking about? I had no idea when we come up with something. You were gone 10 minutes, and then you came back again. So at that time, can I ask, was this the time you looked over your contract?
You can ask, but we can't
Again,
answer.
that was
you're
an
not gonna
executive
answer.
session.
Okay, well, let me see here.
And your 5 minutes is up, Mr. Isaacs. Thank you for your time.
I figured that. Okay.
Are there any other citizens that would like to address the commission on non-agenda items? Please come forward, state your name and address in an audible tone.
Thank you for your time. My name is Lucas Bustillos. I'm 33 years old. I moved here in Liberal in the 4th grade. I went to school here since 4th grade. And I did ask to get my item put on the agenda, I think last month, and they didn't feel like that was necessary. So I figured I would do what the lady before me was doing, is be here every time. Excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous, but the reason I'm here is basically to bring up awareness to the community with trades and licensing with the city. The reason why I'm here is because I'm a journeyman electrician. I'm licensed in the state of Colorado. I'm licensed in the state of Kansas through Sedgwick County. I have 2 certifications from the VOTEC, and I am also a graduate from Seward County. The reason why I'm here is because it's pretty hard and tough to raise a family in this town because of financial situations. And I understand that everybody isn't in my boat, but I am doing what I've been called to do since a young man, and that is construction work. One of my issues is that our codes and regulations for the city and the county are not comparable to other counties in the state or other states in the country. And I feel like this puts people like me at a disadvantage because there's no roadmap or path to start a business. I am an aspiring business owner. I plan to be a master electrician and own a company here in Liberal. And that will come to pass despite all the difficulties that I'm having trying to make this happen. Basically, I just want to bring awareness to the community that when you call an electrician or an HVAC person, a plumber, you know, people like that, they have to be licensed to do the work. And if they're sending somebody that is not licensed, then that is a problem. That is not how the rest of the country works. That is not how other counties in our state work. And I feel like it's holding people like me who grew up in the community, who went to the schools, you know, who did everything that as a young person, you know, your teachers or your advisors would have advised you to do. And so I stand here today just as a person wanting to bring awareness, and maybe, you know, you guys can put it on the agenda and do a little more research. Keith from the city has been helpful in helping me understand how the codes and licensing work here in Liberal, but I can't just take his word for it. He says that they're going to be changing and whatnot, but I feel like I've been left out for the past 15, you know, years when my city kind of let me down and my school district kind of let me down because they're not looking to the future. And it has a lot to do with National Beef being in this town. Mostly people who work at National Beef don't have to be licensed because one guy at the top has a license. And so it pushes everybody to work there with no opportunity for advancement. And at the same time, you know, that brings in a lot of problems with the town because I work as a maintenance person and I've worked on multiple properties in town, multiple companies. And I don't know if people from, you know, the city know, but there's a bad bug bed infestation in Liberal. And not only does that have to do with trades licensing, you have to be licensed to do the bug spraying and stuff like that. One of my goals is to have a property maintenance business. One of the reasons why is because I don't feel like I should have to work for somebody for $10 an hour, no insurance, no benefits, no future, when I'm very qualified to do what I do. But because of the licensing in the city and the way things work, as a person of faith and you know, integrity, I can't do the things that, for instance, a farmer driving through town with a truckload of watermelons might be on the street corner selling his watermelons. I don't know if he has a license for that. I don't know if he's paying taxes on that. But me as a person of integrity, I cannot allow myself to go hustle the streets for jobs and not pay taxes and not have a business license and not do the things that I need to do. And I'm not claiming to know it all because I don't. I'm just here. I've never done this before. You know, and I'd also like to just add, the pastor's words, you know, he had a good prayer beforehand, and you know what he spoke, some of the things he said.
Sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
We would encourage you to continue to work with the city.
Phone number?
Yeah.
Could I get that from you?
620-655-5170.
Thank you.
And I would encourage you to continue to work with our city building department as we are trying to work with other communities in our area, Garden City, Dodge City, and bring everything uniformly so you can go from community to community and know that your license is good here as it is good there. So we are working on that, and we will pass that to the new commission so that they continue to push forward with that as well.
Okay. I would just like to add one last thing.
Quickly.
On the pastor's words with you know, preaching the sermon, the prayer, and it goes along with what the lady before me had to say is, you know, whose side is God on? I mean, he's speaking, defending you guys. I'd just like to say the weak and the poor. I mean, everything that's hidden will come to light. So, I mean, whose side is God on? The weak and the poor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the commission on non-agenda items? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to items from groups. Are there any groups in the audience that would like to address the commission on non-agenda items? Seeing none, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize 4 young men and their leaders that are working towards their Eagle Scout badges. They promised me last night they would continue years down the road, and we will see 4 future Eagle Scouts in our community that will do good things for our community. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Next item up on the agenda is agenda item number 6, which is the consent agenda. Seeing there are no consent agenda items, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, city bus renewal grant comments.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, in just a few days, we'll be submitting a grant application, renewal grant application to the state, KDOT, for continuing operations for new capital and administrative expenses for city bus. Next year, and their grant year runs from July to the end of June. So we're sort of in the middle of this current. We apply in November for the next grant cycle. We're going to continue the scope of the operation exactly as it is now with 3 fixed routes plus the demand system that we've got now. This year, however, we will be replacing some buses, or we're going to apply for that. We'll actually be applying for funds to replace 4 buses, one of those which was wrecked and totaled, which essentially will be covered by insurance money, but we need to include it in the grant. The other 3 buses have reached, our initial 3 buses have reached their threshold with mileage, so that we can replace those, and that's one of the things that we'll be applying for in this grant is our funds to replace those 3 older buses. Like I say, we're going to continue. The nice thing about replacing those 3 buses is that when we replace those buses then continue to belong to the city. We can use those however we like with no restrictions from KDOT other than they not be put back into the rotation in our bus system. So if the city has additional uses for, 14 passenger bus with a lift, or we can dispose of those to community groups or whatever, or even just sell them. They're ours to use as we want. So part of the application asks that we go to our commission and ask for comments, if any, regarding our bus program, City Bus. So if you have any of those, we'd certainly like to hear those, and we will pass those along to KDOT in the application.
Yeah, Jeff, the other, last week we had Black Hills Energy Breakfast, and there's something that's available through them to get CNG buses or an upgrade to convert, and they'll pay for it. So have you heard anything?
We're sort of at the mercy of KDOT. KDOT specs out all our buses for us. They pick the next model. Essentially, we can add some bells and some whistles to them if we like, but they're small bells and small whistles. We are sort of at the mercy of KDOT, in that regard.
Have they looked at it at all, CNG?
Honestly, I would assume they have.
Yeah.
We could pass the information on.
And I'd certainly be glad to do that. If that's an available option, I mean, we certainly have the option to get that fuel here now.
Right.
And I do believe Black Hills Energy expressed that it was a program through KDOT.
Yeah.
So you may want to check with
Okay.
them as well.
Yeah.
They would not pay, there were certain things they would pay for, there were certain things they would not. But if you bought a bus that was already compressed natural gas, they would
Right.
pay pretty much 100% of the purchase price of the bus.
We'll talk.
Or pay for a conversion kit of existing.
Because they've
equipment.
mentioned city bus, they've mentioned the trash department, things like that. So, but that is a new program that is being offered through the state of Kansas.
We don't do anything in that program without KDOT's blessing. So.
There you go. I can understand. The only comments I have is that it's a good program. It has provided those that may end up walking in inclement weather an opportunity to get to and from doctor's appointments, to shopping trips, and I especially are appreciative of the I don't want to use the word handicap bus, but the assistance that is provided on the on-demand bus.
Right.
That is very vital to our community.
Those are becoming, I mean, the usage on those is becoming,
It goes up
it just goes up
yeah.
every year. It's right. There'll become a time where we're actually starting to do some work on justification for adding another vehicle into that program.
I will
Not this
afford you,
grant cycle, but the next one.
I'll afford you a 30-second infomercial if you'd like to ask anybody in attendance if they would be interested in driving city bus, because I understand
That's
you
right, yeah.
are needing
We're
drivers.
always short of drivers, so if you're looking for a great part-time job, it's a great 20-hour-a-week job, so it's fun. I've done it myself, so.
I'm going to have a little spare time now.
There you go. We'll talk.
Right. Anybody else have any comments? This is the section of the grant that allows the local government to speak on behalf or have any questions for City Bus and the continuation or declination of the program.
I think it's a great program.
It seems like it's grown, so.
Do we need a
I
motion?
think we need to keep it.
No, this is just a comment support. We do not need a motion.
When we come back with, assuming we get a grant award, then we'll come back at that time and ask the commission for approval to accept that.
Is there a portion or a place down at City Hall where the public can fill out a comment
Oh,
sheet?
yes, at the bus office in City Hall. It
Okay.
sure is, yeah.
So let the public weigh in as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item up on the agenda will be agenda item number 8, Police Department purchase of office desks.
Commissioners, good evening. This is somewhat of an unusual request since it's an unbudgeted item. But what brought this about, I was in records the other day. I was talking with Sandy, asking if she and her gals could possibly use or would like to have those expandable stand-up desks that office people are using nowadays to try to keep them having to sit for 8 hours solid. And she graciously pointed out to me that they would love to have them, but they don't have the desk space for it. In fact, the desk space that they currently have was salvaged from the old water department before they moved out, and we utilized them in the newly remodeled area, and they don't fit the space very well, so they're very limited in the space that they use. She also pointed out that because of the limited desktop space, they're not able to use dual monitors. There was a time when I didn't realize how valuable dual monitors are, but nowadays they are an essential to most anybody. And once you use them, you'll never go back to single monitors. But the records gals use our computer system more than anybody in the department, and they don't even have dual monitors. She also graciously pointed out that they're using banker's boxes as shelving and pieces of plywood spanning between the two desks. So she quickly convinced me that we need new desks. So we went out for a couple quotes, Southern Office Supply and Little Office Machine. And the ones that the records gals favor the most are the ones that from Southern Office Supply. They're actually a U-shaped type desk, which will be able to utilize most of the space efficiently, give them more desktop space. Plus it also had an overhead storage between the two desks. The pricing, if you took the overhead storage out, the pricing on the two desks that were offered to us are the same. But because of the additional desktop space, the overhead storage, the records gals would prefer to go with Southern Office Supply. So we're requesting that we spend some money out of the Police Reserve Equipment Fund in the amount of $3,427.60 to purchase new desks. These are for the front office record staff, for when the public comes in, the other gals that deal with the public. And then there's another set of desks further on in the back with the same situation, which we'll probably be talking about that next year. But right now, we'd just like to purchase two for that front.
Any questions for Police Chief still on the purchase of these U-shaped desks?
Make a motion, we approve the desk from Southern Office Supply in the amount of $3,427.60 to come out of the Police
Equipment Reserve Fund.
Equipment Reserve Fund.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Carlisle, but second by Commissioner Aragon. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
5-0. Next item on the agenda is agenda item number 9, which is the Mid-America Air Museum Fire Sprinkler System Repairs. Scott Metelko, Director of the museum, will be before the commission.
Good evening. My third day at work, we had an inspection done on the fire system, and they came up with a number of items that need to be repaired, just so that we get everything kind of up to proper operation. You know, you never know for sure if this thing's going to work until you need it, and one of the ways that you can sort of hedge your bets a little bit is these inspections that have been done year after year, and I found a number of them in the desk when I moved in, going back several years. So this is not a new thing. It's just that it hasn't been addressed yet. And so we went out, we got 3 bids, and we're recommending that we go with the low bidder on that.
Any questions for Scott on the repairs?
Since we don't have the bids, I guess we do, don't we?
Yep. It looks like we have a recommendation.
Do they match apples to apples, oranges to oranges on the bids?
Yeah, there were, if you look at the inspection report, the next to the last page of the inspection report has a list of items, 23 items that are on there, and we worked with the fire department for recommendations on things that we could eliminate from there. So we eliminated 3 items from this list, and all 3 companies bid on those same 3 items.
Okay. And we do have a recommendation from the fire marshal that this is in their full support of the repairs. Any other discussion, or is there a motion?
Your Honor, I make a motion to take staff recommendation of the bid of $11,525 from Prior Automatic Fire Sprinkler.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Harrison, a second by Vice Mayor Martinez. Any further discussion? Scott, have they given you a timeline on how soon these repairs can be made?
No, I don't have a timeline.
Okay.
They should take, they did say that it would take a couple of weeks to
Okay.
get them done once they started.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
I guess the only other question, was there anybody locally that does that, or is it just, this is something that's not done in Liberal?
Yeah, there's, my understanding is there's not anybody locally. So I had found, McDaniel, who contacted me, who did the inspection, I had them put a number on it. That's when I contacted the fire department, and they recommended the 2 other companies that do this.
They deal with it, so they should know.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Scott. Next item up on the agenda is agenda item number 10, which is airport terminal renovations. We have Debbie.
Good evening, Your Honor and Commissioners. Excuse me, I have bronchitis, so if all of a sudden start cutting out on you, ask me to repeat myself. As you probably have heard, SkyWest will be joining us early part of February. They did a site inspection, I think it was the end of November, and they found a bunch of things that they're going to need to renovate in the building so that everything will run smoother for them. They're going to need to have more office space, need to have a bigger holding area for the passengers before they get on the ramp. So they have put the drawings that you have in your packet. Those have been forwarded to some contractors for their quote. I'm asking this evening for approval to do up to $40,000 out of airport land sale funds, which the FAA has approved, to recarpet, repaint, retile the building, purchase the seating that's necessary, put a big screen TV in the lobby, get some phone charging stations in the lobby, upgrade the water fountain, things like that, and modernize the art inside the building, so we're prepared for this. So that's what I'm here for this evening, is basically to ask for that. I've asked for the quotes from the same contractors that SkyWest is getting quotes from, so that it can be contiguous and happen at the same time. That's
Debbie,
it in a nutshell.
in the holding area, do you have room for 50 people? Where is the expansion going to take place?
The wall that's there now is going to be knocked out. It's going to be towards the bathrooms. It's It's going to be a wall, solid wall there. They'll walk in there, the x-ray machine will be right up against that wall. They'll first walk in and go through the x-ray machine, and then they'll go through the stand-up scanner, and whatever they do. And then if they have private screening, that'll be in the corner. So in the holding area, we have seating for 40 seats here. And it's a 50-passenger, so there may be some overflow that we may have to pull some chairs in from time to time if we're fortunate to put 50 on every day for both flights. That's a hope, but, you know, it might take a little bit of time to get there.
Will TSA be upgrading their equipment to accommodate?
We don't have any necessary upgrades. We've got the most current equipment.
Debbie, when our visit to DC and also the Black Hills Energy Breakfast, there's some people that drive from Wichita to Kansas City because it's cheaper. They were willing to drive from Wichita to Liberal to go to Denver. So I think a little marketing and this stuff will work to fill this plane. So
Right.
I think it's going to be a win for us.
We're going to pull out a big marketing plan here pretty soon. SkyWest is already working on it. I'm giving them names and addresses and contacts of area media folks so that they can start working on budgets, getting prices, and doing plans on what they're going to do for the marketing. They've asked how much we can put in, and I've asked Mr. Parsons to see what he can come up with, maybe in the Economic Development Sales Tax Funds or something to help with that, but we'll have a big pull-out.
Garden City was asking for another plane, and they basically said there's no more planes, and they got a pilot shortage with American, so we can get into that market too.
United has plenty of pilots, and they have plenty of aircraft, is what I've been told.
What is the time limit, or the term for this agreement with SkyWest? How many years?
It was a 2-year term.
2 years?
Yeah.
Any further questions on the airport terminal renovations? All those in favor? Opposed?
Did we make a motion?
We didn't make a motion.
Okay, I need a motion.
I make a motion that we approve airport terminal improvements as proposed to the city to be paid for out of airport land sales in the amount not to exceed $40,000.
I'll second that.
Motion, now we have a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Vice Mayor Martinez. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
A related note, SkyWest will be issuing a news release probably in the next week or so, announcing their actual start date, their fares, their schedule, and how to go ahead and start booking tickets. They'll have that all prepped and ready to go, so I'll be releasing that to the media. And I may need some quotes from the mayor, anybody in the commission that wants to make quotes on that article. We'll make a big splash.
When do you anticipate their first flight?
February 6th is what they're kind of talking about. Now, that may be delayed a little bit, but that's what they're talking about.
And they will also stop in Pueblo once or twice a day?
Twice. They'll stop on the way to Denver first thing in the morning, which is proposed at 5:45 a.m. And then the last flight of the night of the day, they will depart Denver about 8:20, stop in Pueblo, deplane passengers, and then come to Liberal about 11:30. The plane will be on the ground overnight and start the next morning.
Thank you for your hard work on that.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, so next item up on the agenda will be agenda item number 11, which is a sales tax presentation. City Manager Hall will be making this presentation.
Mayor, Commissioners, just wanted to take time to discuss a little on the sales tax situation. During this election, there's been a lot of questions how the sales tax works, what it's for, what its intent, and we just want to kind of go over those. In the next couple meetings is how it works in our understanding. It is one of those, first slide is this was a great thing intended by a group of individuals that had the forethought of what can we do to make Liberal great in the future. It was a lot of work. A lot of minds came together. It is one of those that nobody really understood what the future of the sales tax would be. It was a new adventure for the city. Over the years, the sales tax, with working with Focus on the Future, it is one of those that after many years, in 2010, we went to the public in a general election, which was the first time in a general election to renew the sales tax. But with that came the experience of what would the best way to utilize the funds. We did reduce economic development as far as we increased housing for our future needs. Of course, streets, drainage, and other capital improvements saw an increase. Beautification was left at 5%, and crime prevention was left at 5%. And that's currently how it is divided up. That was approved by the voters. And I will get to a slide in here, is our communication and what the voters see what we're doing. I took some time to give you kind of a history. I think you've seen this in the state of the city. It is one of those that in the state of the city, we go over the sales tax. It is usually in February or March of each year. We sit down and do a presentation of all the city and financial and departments, but there is a portion of where we present the state of the 1-cent sales tax. As you can see, since 2002, the sales tax increased for several years and was climbing, and then we got hit with the Great Recession. The uncertainty in 2010 was our lowest year. We were barely above what we conservatively budget. It is one of those that, for budget purposes, we use $3,500,000 from the sales tax. As you can see in 2010, that lowest dip, we were just above that mark, $3,500,000. The reason we do this is because of the sales taxes. We want to project projects that we can do in the future. It is one of those that, as we get forward, it was one of those that the focus on the future had hoped that the city would come up with a strategic plan in the future how to accomplish things, and that was done in 2007. The sales tax was 1994, but in 2007 was the first strategic plan for the sales tax. In this is the sales tax, and explaining is roughly it's felt that 1/3 of the sales tax comes from outside the city limits. Those are people that want to come here and shop, buy groceries or services. It is one of those that we get the sales tax. It's also felt that the improvements that you see that are being made, the roads that you see that are being done to make our city the city of choice, 1/3 of that's being paid for by people who visit the city of Liverpool and shop. So it always has been the goal to increase our retail market. It is one of those that is not easily done, and in a future commission I will explain that in the sales tax, but that gives an idea of where the revenue comes from. These are right now, since 2007, these are projects that we've completed. There is a couple of those that are in progress right now, but the improvements that you've seen throughout the city, and I think everyone will remember Light Park. It is one of those, I want to say, that staff is truly committed to the sales tax for the benefit of all. It is one of those that as we go through and discuss with the commission, this commission always has authority on all projects that we do. We can't simply just go do projects and notify the commission later. It is one of those with the idea that the city, at one point, that someone will be born here And they will be asked 20 years later what it was like to be born in the city of Liberal, to grow up here. And what our hope is they sit there and not reflect on crime, not reflect on the lack of things to do, but sit there and say, this is the greatest place to grow up. It also means that if we're talking to them 20 years from now, they stayed in Liberal instead of moving away. So that's another bonus. But staff has, and they're committed to this. I think most of you, if you take your time and walk up and down Kansas Avenue, go out to ball fields, go out to Western, all the things that you see like Park, Leap Family Park. These improvements have been to sit there and make Liberal not only attractive to the citizens, but also to people to invest in the future of Liberal. And that will be discussed in economic development. These are some more projects, as you see up there, that have been done since 2007 to current. It is one of those, these are a list of programs that were started since 2007, and that'll lead to, but these are programs for the citizens of Liberal. They benefit through the sales tax. They are things that we see that a need is, and we do listen to focus on the future. We do, and as you'll see, we use a measuring stick from the focus on the future meetings. In 1994, this was the vision statement furnished by the Focus on the Future group. It does go through and it does wish that the future would work together to build a community that would be a great place for everyone to live and work and play. It does outline is our guideline, if you want to say. Things have changed over Liberal, and I will cover that. But that's how it started, and it does explain that. It does explain in this part is how the groups came together and met and had the foresight of doing something great. It is how it came up with the areas that it was determined that you see on the sales tax today. The streets and drainage, drugs and alcohol, housing, economic development, and beautification. It is one of those that at the bottom line, as you can see, the concern most often expressed in each meeting was for all elected, appointed officials to cooperate and work together to instill more pride in our community and to reach our objectives. And that was a forethought back then. It was one of those, I think that sums it up. Nobody knew where this was going. We all hoped, or they all hoped, that we would always listen. This was a gift to the community. It is one of those at the time, and I'll point out at the bottom of the slide, you can see that our population at 1994 was 16,942. This was a journey. This was a journey that they were going to go on. It is one of those, these are the things that were not known before the 1 cent sales tax in 1994. And this is having talks with Mr. Wilbers and Mr. Mason. Both of those have passed, but I do credit a better understanding with those. Mr. Wilbers, Stan Wilbers, was the former finance director for the city of Liberal. So he had some insight to government and then also the sales tax. But one is both expressed that how much will the sales tax collect each year? Nobody knew that. Nobody in the city knew what this would do, how much money would generate from 1 penny. It is roughly a little over $2 million was collected in the first full year in 1995. But it is one of those, nobody knew how much or where it could go. It is, how much do the requested projects cost? At the time that they put their dreams and wishes, there was not a dollar figure put to what these things would cost. And that did influence as years goes on by the commission, but it is one of those that they did not go out and say that this project should cost this much and this much. So there was a lot of unknown. How will the projects be paid? Was it debt payments through the sales tax, which we have seen? That one was in, Chris, you can help me, the Pine Streets and that stuff was down in
2000, I believe.
2000. It is pay as we go. What you're operating now, the city commission, is pay as we go. It is, I think, the best way and the safest way. You don't want to collect debt. What we did find and overcame is with it, that in 2000, they had actually did a bond on that, and we were paying that clear until 2015, am I correct? Right? 2015, around in there? 14?
Well, there were actually two. One was for a water project, and the other was for streets.
Streets.
And I believe the first one, was 10 years.
But those are, and that's something that we learned as in taking over, that you never obligate the sales tax past its renewal. Because if it doesn't renew, then you still have to make that payment. It is one of those, what federal, state, and local laws apply to the requested projects. They did not know that at the time, but it is one of those. This is to throw out ideas to what could be done in the future. And that is always necessary, and it's still done today. What will the cultural, and this is in their information, is what will be the cultural, social, and economic diversity of our community in 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years. At the time, that was unknown. It is, this town has changed, and a lot of the local people that have lived here for many years have seen those changes. But those are positive, but it is one of those that was unknown. And with that comes different needs as the city moves forward. The things that were not known after the sales tax passed in 1994, and this was discussed, should members of Focus on the Future Committee be allowed to serve if they benefit indirectly or directly from the 1 cent sales tax? That is one of those that was a concern that most of the members, when they came, it was asked their wisdom, but then they didn't have any, I guess, financial gain or financial interest in it. That was never answered, and that was asked of Richard and of Stan. That was never addressed, is that should you receive something from the sales tax, how can you sit there and recommend that it continue?
So do we have people now that benefit that serve?
Yes, you do. It is one of those, should the requested projects be solely approved based on grantability? This is something Mr. Welbers did, and the intent was hope that these funds could match funds. That would spread those dollars in the future. It is one of those that Mr. Welbers was aware that KDOT and on the Bureau of Local Projects, that that money had dried up and is not available anymore. It is one of those, as we've seen the country change, as far as matching grants and availability, those do drive up. We do pride ourselves that over the course of time that we've had close to, we're now exceeding about $25 million worth of grants that have assisted the sales tax. And those are, and we do utilize grants, and I think Debbie will sit there and talk about that. It's a great thing in our airport. It is one of those, they've done runway and taxiway projects. And those have been large matching grants. In fact, if Debbie's still here, I believe our portion is only 5%. So we still utilize grants, we still look for those, but it is one of those, they are hard to come by. So the sales tax sometimes has to bear 100%. The other is we should projects be allowed that are not on the requested projects list. And this is a tough thing that it struggles because at the time, nobody knows what the future will hold. And it is one of those, the great meetings and the focus of the future and ideas that are shared. It is one of those that is a guide, but you do have things present itself that will make this community better. And one good example I'll bring up just recently was the Lambert donation, where the commission has approved to put two, which is a quality life issue, 2 championship soccer fields at the sports complex up there. We've always had where more fields and more things are needed by the citizens, but this was an opportunity, and to say it was exactly on the list, we took advantage of that to make Liberal great. And I think when that's done, and I thank staff, that when you drive around the city and see all those lights on and you see those people, and anybody in this room, if you go by Light Park, if you were here before 2009, I don't think you saw what you see now. It is one of those, it was a very, very dark and Bradford Park. It was the only unirrigated at that time, unirrigated park. So when it was a hot summer, it stayed brown all summer. So I think people have noticed these things, the public has, and which will lead. It is one of those that as we go down, should, and this was Mr. Wilbur's thought, at first it was hard to understand and explain, should the property taxpayer pay for the maintenance and upkeep of requested projects? And that's a tough decision. If we can, we do bear the burden in the general fund. But you can also see what it creates by when you do a project, and I'll give an example of the pool. The pool that we do, that we have now, anything that are repairs and that will bear the burden of the 1 cent sales tax for the creation of the pool. But this general fund bears the burden of any losses to the pool. And it is one of those with our low price, the general fund bears that burden. So we've worked to that, and Mr. Wilbers did understand that it is a tough thing, that you want a nice thing, but if it does, and this will be the case of the rec center in the future. If the commission wishes to do that in the future, if that does suffer a loss in operating, who bears that cost? And you have to sit there and work that through, that sits there and goes, there is some people that might not want that rec center, but then they are forced to, in a way, through property taxes, cover that loss. I think it is with the understanding of Mr. Wilbers and Mr. Mason is that is a fragile line that we will have to always come up and go back and forth, but it is one of those that should there be a need for support, that the sales tax does carry that weight. It does should the taxpayer be paid for operating costs and requested projects? Like I just said, that's one of those. Usually the general fund will carry that, but it does come a point where if the general fund suffers too much, then we have to force to raise property taxes. So it's a delicate balance. Should the requested project list be used as a guide because of the cultural changes? Yes, that's what we use it for. It is a guide, and it is one of those that's ever changing. The first one was for 7 years, the next one was for 10, and we now got another 10. So it is one of those that what we do now, things change over 10 years. And I know I've got kids, and 10 years difference, they sure don't look the same as they did when they were little. It is one of those the last one is, and it's a delicate, discussions with Ivanhoe, and this is, should requested projects be based solely on the majority of those who benefit? And that is a tough question, because there's certain things that we can do that will benefit far more, but we will forget the minority and that they can't benefit. It's one of those that I think all is we weigh that, and the commission weighs that, is we're not gonna have everybody 100%, but it is something that I think, I pride myself that the commission has made those decisions that it is for the greater good of the city of Liberal. I will go through and just roughly sit there and tell you this is 2000's report to us. They did something different in 2000 is that's where they started taking and making a list. Before, the list was very small in 1994. And it was just kind of getting things started, and these are ideas. But this is where the meetings took place and more extensive lists came out. It is one of those, I'll explain later, but there was an A and B and these were most commonly brought up. But as they went through the meetings, they sit there and started saying, these are suggestions, these are things that the people that attended the meeting would like to see. And we still, like to say, use that as a baseline or guide. But in 2000, that was there. What they didn't know in 2000 are some of the things that have come up with Liberal. In 2006, Liberal Kansas has the second highest crime rate per capita in the state of Kansas. I think if you're from our end, why would I invest in Liberal? And it is one of those that I think staff understood that the only people that can change Liberal in appearance is the city. And it is one of those, we appreciate all the other entities, but it is a mission that has been started and carried on that sit there and said, we've got to do something about crime. And I will discuss that later in a meeting. There was no strategic plan developed. That one came out in 1994. It was one of those never accomplished, but in 2007, and I think Commissioner Denoyer and Commissioner Harrison remember that is. We have a strategic plan. We sit there and go forward to make this city great, and we've coined this two phrases. One, we're open for business, and the other is we want Liberal to be the city of choice. This is where people want to come. Anadarko, nobody knew, but Anadarko and other oil-related businesses would leave Liberal. That was a big shock. It is one of those that things were saying oil was down, which we know goes up and down. KDOT will not participate in local projects due to the revenue shortfall. We were informed that, and one example is Western. Western was failing. We applied for that for 15 years. It is one of those that ended up costing about $4.2 million to redo Western. We went to Topeka. We asked if we could be their poster child and show every other city we would be willing to do 50-50 with KDOT. If you remember 15th Street, that was an 80-20 split. We just had to pay the 20%. It is one of those KDOT could not afford it, and we ended up paying 100% for that street. It is one of those that is pretty much the mode. You can apply through KDOT, and roughly it's about a $200,000 award. You do have to have a project to match it with. There is some federal money that we see coming maybe, and we will apply and see if we can get that. But the future of the one sales tax during this 10 years, this future of 10 years, is the Great Recession. I think that everybody calls that now, hit, and we saw that go down in 2010. Right at the end of this, that was the lowest collection we ever had. Arterial streets, which those are the main ones you get through, they're all failing, and that's just due to the age of the infrastructure. It's something we have to deal with. Housing and economic development incentives need development. And I do want to say on staff, and I know some are here, is we need to sit there and take advantage of what is offered by the state. And I will get in that a little later. What I have up here is a Hutchinson News article that sit there and high crime rate rank concerns liberal officials. If you look on the date of that in September of 2007, you can actually see this was from a local person. It was in there. They're afraid for her family. And at the very bottom, city officials were dismayed when the Kansas Bureau of Investigation released statistics that showed liberals' crime rate was the second highest in the state. Only Kansas City, Kansas was higher. So, with that statement, which nobody knew as these things go on, the mission began. The mission began in 2007, which you're a part on, is nobody will invest here. No businesses will want to come. It is one of those, this has been one of the things that have been worked on for the last 11 years. But that is the largest detriment of a manufacturer or anybody coming in is when their people are put in harm's way. So, this is something when it renewed in 2000, who foresaw that ever coming? It is one of those in 2010. This is the report to the committee. It explained that we went back again. We had citizens come in, but it does identify that they were very disappointed about the turnout, the input that was given in previous renewals or the beginning. It is one of those. There still comes out good information. The staff assisted. We came up with a survey that would help. And now you'll see that later, but it is one of those. Now we're in 2010, and it's estimated we had a population of 20,525 people. So we went from 1994 now of 16 plus thousand is now we're 20 plus thousand. So we are growing, but it is one of those, our diversity, things are changing. It's right now that we look at the population in 16 had went down, and we all know that the oil field, some of those businesses have left. I do want to point out something about what has been going on through all these years. If you look at things that were known by the Focus on the Future Committee in 2010. And that's real kind of key is us working with them, is that the city, the effects of, first they knew that we were going into recession. We discussed that with Focus on the Future. It is one of those, here you're asking to renew the sales tax, and we're in a big, big recession. It was very, very difficult to sit there and go, what do we do? What do we show? It is, your next item is, in the Focus on the Future, it was the first time we ever put it in a general election. That might not seem so bad to most, but it's unsecure because usually you only get 1,300 voters in a special election. Now you were going to go out and have something that would attract more voters, and there could be more naysayers. But it is one of those, the Focus on the Future at that time felt that what had been done over the years made it strong enough to go to the general election. The Focus on the Future Committee agreed to the percentage changes. That was discussed in the Focus on the Future meeting. Many of you, well, few of you attended that meeting in the discussions. The other is there was a rec center question. And to explain the rec center question, in the Focus on the Future meetings, is how can you expect us to pass a sales tax if we don't know what this rec center will cost, what it will look like, how it'll be run, operating, all these things. It was one of those that the Focus on the Future thought it was in the best interest of a sales tax is to put that to a public vote in 2018. It was the first time that it's ever been done. It also was going to be the largest one-time expense the sales tax had ever done. There's reasons, we've heard everything and we discussed, we tried to follow up, but as you can see, it is one of those. In 2018, the rec center did not pass. And it was roughly, it was close, there was 200 votes, there was 1,200, but it was roughly 1,200 plus, it was 700 and some to 500 and some. It is one of those, I think you as commissioners understand that rec center is always been a request by Focus on the Future meetings. It is one of those, it's a good thing for a community, and I think the next commission is that will be a decision on going forward, how it needs to be done on the rec center in the future, and that was the proper thing to allow them to address that. If you look right now, and this is what I kind of don't understand, is there's been such negativity and claim how this has been spent. First of all, we're audited, it is one of those, every dime has to be accounted for. Focus on the Future receives a quarterly report. It is one of those, our phone numbers are available, and we're always ready to discuss, but it is one of those, if you look up, this was Mr. Watt, and this was he wrote Wednesday, November 3rd, is in its largest margin of victory. And to explain that, in 1994, they didn't know if it even passed, and a mail-in ballot was requested. It is one of those that the next went to a special election. This was taking a big step on the sales tax. And as you can see, Mr. Wilbur's comments in there of all the things that the sales tax has done, and yes, it passed 82% of the voters that voted in that election. That sum is by Mr. Watt. I think it is one of those that the public can see that nobody walks home, a commissioner doesn't walk home or put money in their pocket, nor does staff. But you can look around and sit there and touch everything that has been done through the sales tax. I'm very proud of the staff that has done it. It is one of those, the kids are out there playing, and if you go by our parks, they've got more stuff to do, and there is more to come. But this is making our city great, and the other thing is we still have that cloud that we had to get out from under, is that we owned in 2006 as the second highest crime rate per capita city in the state of Kansas. And that's something that these commissions and future commissions, I hope, understand that when you carry that, I guess, not so proud of honor, people do not want to come here. You can ask Mr. Watt about articles that were written in by Cal Ripken tournaments that were played in our city, and one lady actually commented that she was afraid to let her son come to Liberal, Kansas. And I think you all, Joe, you remember those, and she was so glad she did. So glad she let her kid come to sit there and play a tournament in Liberal, Kansas. Things that were not known in the 1 cent sales tax in 2010, it's roughly about the same things. Things are falling apart. Unemployment falls, and then it climbs later on when we saw oil go back up. We saw oil go back up, things went up, and guess what? Now oil's down and it's fallen again. So it is housing shortage. When we see a recovery of oil, we saw a housing shortage, and now we have a housing overstock. So it is one of those, each time this is passed or the groups meet, there is an unknown, and you have to be reactionary. I'm going to take this time and this one short, and I'll speed it up, but it is one of those, I'm going to explain housing and community development. It is one of those that out of this, housing gets 15%. It was from 2001 to 2011. The estimated budget was $350,000. The estimated budget right now stands at $525,000. That is a conservative estimate. It is one of those that, this was the suggestion on housing in 1994. In 1994, the housing portion, which they did more extensively in other parts, but this was what was written in. And basically, it was come up with a strategic plan on housing. That's the best we can tell you right now. We're unsure. But it is one of those gave directions. You will see right now in 2000, the focus on the future meetings, these are what resulted from those meetings. It is one of those, additional affordable housing and lower, that's been done. Number 2, it breaks up in several, but those have been done. There's certain things in the sales tax and suggestions that we can do. Some we can, some we can't. There's some legally we can't do, and some legally we can't. The other is the question of money. Some we can afford and some we can't. But it is one of those that if we're looking at a stick that we compare it to, this is the stick that we use. And we go back, but opportunities and changes in the environment and liberal dictate that we might not get to everything and we might not get to do, but we carry this yardstick. It is one of those that as we look now, this is in 2010 suggestions. There was, and the city assisted, but if you remember, there was a low turnout in the focus on the future meetings. You can see up there, there's some things we can't do. You have where we need, and I just want to commend that we're trying to sit there. We even put in an application with FEMA for tornado shelters. It is one of those we don't know, but all they can say is no. But you look at the other things, these are done. We don't know about the Red Cross building. They haven't approached us, but elder housing programs, I want to thank Karen Lafreniere because the majority of all this that you see has been done has been under her. This was something that we furnished in the last meeting, and remember a low turnout. These are questions that we wanted to check and see and use a measuring stick of how well we're doing. And if you look to the far left of the yes, probably yes, that's the majority of the percentage. They either said definitely less or probably. If you look at the lower percentages to the right, that was people that weren't sure or they did not care for the program. But this was a result, and one of those is these are currently things that we work on, and you can see they are all done. So this was the result of those. Giving you a little history that it started out. First housing director, 95, 99, it was passed in 94, the first full year, was Mr. Urban. Mrs. Woods was 99 to 2000. Miss Lynn was 2000, 2001. Miss Hood was 2001, 2005. Miss Hunter was 2005 to 2007. And our current housing director, which is Karen Lafreniere, has been in that position since 2007. I do want to sit there and say that a lot of these programs are benefits in this. We do advertise, we reach out to the public, but there is a lot of programs that people are unaware of, and we try to get those out, and we do discuss them in the State of the City. These are just some of the brochures. I do want to say that what we've done is we've updated our tools. It is right now, and thank you, Karen, is we do have a rural RHID, and that has been utilized already several times in this city. It was, I believe, in 1994. It was made available in Kansas. It was kind of a sleeper program. It came out, and it is a special, it assists developers in doing that. It's only available, and if Karen's in the room, under 60,000 population or 40?
Under 60,000.
60?
Yes.
Okay? So in other words, we're available, and we got room to grow, but it's a super program. Special assessment, those were redone in 2007. I think legislator Shannon Francis remembers that. We didn't have a special assessment policy, we brought that back. That's another tool to be used by developers. Neighborhood revitalization district, that's another tool. We've brought those on. First-time home buyer. Karen was the one that brought that in, and if you looked, and I didn't have time to point it out, but if you look at those suggestions, we didn't have a first-time home buyer, and she brought that to the front. You all know that we keep raising that each year, making it availability, and all the realtors benefit from that program. Paint the town, safe at home, self-help housing, and I'll show you the magic it's done, but senior citizens. We reached out, and Karen started that, is they're a part of our community. We want them to know, and we'll all be senior citizens. I remember this nice lady from the senior citizen said, what you're listening to, you very well will be a senior citizen in the future. So it is one of those we respect and we wish to do things for the senior citizens, but those are some of the programs available. These other things that you look here are programs that brought on, CDBGs, these things, housing incentive program, I will get there. That is one of those, the new construction single family, and that's the one you hear where you build a new home, you get $5,000. USDA program assistance. Want to sit there and clear up this idea of revenue. It is one of those, as you can see, I just took a couple of years. It is, we're out, but we budget $525,000. You can see that the revenue that we take in, and that is through property and other things, is those were the actual revenue. So in 2012, it wasn't $525,000, it was $720,452, and you can see those numbers are in the 7 or high 6s. So it is the number that was brought up about this $525,000, that's a budget number. The other is want to sit there and there's some that stretch back, but this 2017 miscellaneous expenses, this is where we sit there and say, what have we done? In the Builder Incentives Program since 2006, we've paid $763,000 to people building a new home. It is Safe at Home, which are the protectors in this program. $44,000 has been spent. You can see participants out on the side. In the first time, we've had 100 since 2006, 178 participants. It is one of those first-time home buyer. That thing just took off since 2009, and thank you, Karen, because if you look out there, 361 participants in that program. It is one of those that, as you look down, you can see senior housing programs. 685,770, oh, I can't even say it, 685,000 plus, and you got 354 participants. Those are seniors in our community that the housing department has reached out and touched. It is one of those that you can look at matching grants. There is one looking at, I want to point out, it's the second item under the grants, is this is a self-help housing program. Self-help participates with us, and I will explain that later, but it is one of those that we receive grants through them in the amount of $1,225,000 from 2006 to 2017. It's a very great program, and you'll see the benefits of why. You can see other grants she's obtained, and we do have one of those in this moderate income housing grant. We've had 2 people take advantage of the RHID. It is one of those. It's a great thing. They combine the tools, and it has made some of these things more financially feasible. USDA, and just taking this brief to update, the USDA self-help program, we have 63 homes with appraised value of $8,186,000 that goes on the books, goes on the tax rolls. It is one of those homes they get loans. They are low loans through USDA. It is one of those, they're sweat equity. But the thing is what this has resulted through this program is not only getting a low to moderate income person in a home for the first time, but it puts an annual property tax of $167,000 on the tax rolls. What a great program. The one thing that is not mentioned, it was pointed out, this is not in competition with builders. It's not in competition. We actually use and do a bid process. We use the majority of, and we try to always use local. It is one of those that if you look at it, somebody's got to do the basement. We don't have that expertise. Somebody does the framing. Some people do different stages. But to make this house and this program work, the new owners have to put in sweat equity. But what a gift this is, and it is because we roughly stay under 20,000, but they allowed us to fudge up. Garden and Dodge would give anything. I've spoken to their city's managers. They cannot qualify for this program because of the population. We are still in it, and we did have help with the little Senator Moran and some of the others to still keep us in it, because they were cutting us off at 20,000 and we went 500 above it, and it was, oh no. But 63 homes, there's 63 families that went into these homes. We work closely and they do audit us and they explain to us, and we do seek to answer questions. But the USDA self-help program is truly a gift. If you don't believe me, call up Guyman. Guyman started that program and it progressed with that, and I believe they're up to 80 or 90 houses. It is one of those. It's a gift, and I am so glad that we continue to do it. We have 5, I believe, in construction right now. Now, comparing the top 25 cities, I want to sit there and go, this is cities throughout the state, the top 25 in population, and you sit there and go, housing community development departments. Well, there's Wichita's got one, Emporia, Pittsburgh, Topeka, and Liberal. It is one of those community, strictly just a community development. Those are of the top 25. No department, there's 13 cities that do not have a housing or a community development department. This says a lot about what we're doing. It is one of those, just like the big cities, we're going to move forward. It is one of those that if you look at the cities with the multifamily cash incentive, we're the only one. This is apartment, we're the only one in the entire state that does an incentive for multifamily housing. Now, do you understand there's tax incentives, and those are available, which we utilize. But this is actually giving them $3,000 per door if you come build an apartment complex in our city. The other is cities with a single family, which has changed somewhat in Garden. They pulled it back off, but single family cash incentive, there's only 2 in the entire state. 2 in the entire state that gives you cash, and we're one of them. Garden City tried, they pulled it back, but we give $5,000 to the person that is going to take the expense. If you go out and get a loan to build a new house or pay specials because the house you built, you should get the money. It is one of those, that's yours. You're either paying for the street and the lot price, or you're paying for it in special assessment. If you look up here, the cities with tax builders incentives to the borrower, there's 4. Wichita and that. We do with cash, but it is one of those, they have started, because they've actually made incentives through taxes. Through your property taxes, only the city's portion would be refunded to you. Cities with rural housing incentive districts, Liberal, Garden, and Dodge. That's basically because of our populations are below the 60,000. Cities with neighborhood revitalizations, we got a bunch there, but we're in that too. And this is cities without special assessments or other forms of financing for streets. There's no city. There's no city gives money for residential streets. That is, unless you have like Abilene is a situation, they have $2 million that has to be paid back by the citizens. Special assessments, basics, if there's lack of understanding, this is how you get residential streets in. This is one of those where basically we become the bank. You meet our requirements, you put a low investment in, and that's how you get your streets. That's how it works all over. I've received a call that Garden City was given free streets. Hayes was given free streets. Hayes does not give free streets in Garden. They're too costly. They will wreck your city. City of Wichita. This is what they have on special assessments, explaining to all citizens that this is how you get a new street. If your street fails, it is your obligation as property owner to repair that street. If you don't wish to repair it, you don't have to have a special assessment. These are how you do, how you pay for it, everything. And this is the city of Derby. Other cities use special assessments the only way for residential streets. This is our policy, which it is adjustable by the city commission. It explains what performance clauses we have. It is available. Just goes through and explains the process. This is how the money works. It gives a comparison, how it's paid for, what it costs over time. It is one of those that's how residential street. You do not go out, and a good example was when Smithville was coming to possibly Hooker. It is one of those that meetings were met and said, what does the city do? Do you go out and doesn't the city go out and build streets? And you go, no, we don't. And guess what? Smithville never came. It is a very large expense, and that's why cities don't, because they do not have a bucket of money that's sitting there going that when you buy your house, we start putting money for 40 years from now when that street's going to be. There is no fair way to utilize that. That's why it's always put on the property owner. Here you have, and sitting there, this is a chat report, and this is, basically this was in 2012. It was kind of sitting there going, these are targets that Karen uses, but things have changed. It is, we ask about the housing incentive, what we do. This kind of explains is going back is cash incentive, Liberal's the only one. Cash that went actually to the contractor or the borrower, it was one of those, Garden was the only one. Wichita and those do tax incentive. And I do want to say down in the chat report, Liberal has implemented several unusual programs that have been effective to meeting housing needs. These include, and it has those. This is some history of the incentive. It first started off with Mr. Urban, as I pointed out. There was, what do we do? There was meters, there was a cost of $1,000 we would give. Now we give $5,000. It is one of those as it progressed, and things started changing because it first went to the homeowner, the person making the investment, but then it started going to the hammer and nails guy that's being paid to build the house. That changed back after 2013, and Focus on the Future was invited, and some attended, to our meeting at the depot. It was explained that if the contractor was giving the money to them, then they shouldn't mind us giving it directly to them. So that makes sense. They're taking the risk, they're taking the investment. If somebody sat there and said that I can take that $5,000 and apply it to my special assessment, I sure would like to do that. It is one of those now, title changes have changed over time. This, and you can see it switching back. It is one of those that now, this is what other cities are doing to try to catch up what we're doing, and none of them can. It is one of those that City of Hutchinson, City of Wichita, others have sit there and said, we've got to come up with something to attract building, and that's through tax incentive. Our $5,000 is more than what they're getting. It is one of those that you can see City Council, there was Hutchinson, I took some other cities outside the state of Kansas, New Rockford, everybody's coming up with different things. We'll pay your cable television for a year, but nothing matches the $5,000 given directly. This is the name of the new construction multifamily housing incentive program. I won't bore you, Commissioner, on this, but what this basically says is we are willing on multifamily, be it a 2-unit or a 100-unit, we'll pay $3,000 per door. You will not find that in any city in the state of Kansas. You will not find that possibly in any state in the United States. What you will find it is in Canada. But it is one of those that is to attract multifamily. The next is the single family, which you've just heard about, was we give $5,000. We give $5,000 to the person building the home. These are all, and this is the $5,000 offer, and this is done. I'm sorry for taking so long on this. But it is that there is so misinformation about what housing does. And I think if you look at, I'd like somebody to come up with an $8 million valuation program that generates over $167,000 in tax revenue a year. That is a program that is well run, and it is one of those, yes, there has been mistakes, but it is one of those that USDA keeps us going and understand that these things happen all over the country. But it is to minimize those mistakes. And I just want to say hats off to Karen, you've done a well program, and as you can see, on the Focus on the Future meetings, we've done what the people asked for. And that's a big key. Is they brought up, and we do listen, and I think as you see in next meetings, you will see that staff does listen and does try to sit there and create this. But you have a 2006 badge of honor, if you want to say, or a weight around our neck, that it being the second highest crime rate per capita in the state of Kansas, that all these things that you're seeing now, all these years, these people have worked for, so you could have a $60 to $70 million development up north. That is something. The things that you see in these kids out there playing, and if anybody drives by Light Park at night, and even down at Leaf Park in the south end, and by the way, next year it is planned that the commission is, we're going to do Pine Street. That'll be redone. But it is all these things go to making liberal the city of choice. And I always like Joe when we put up there, Commissioner Denoyer put, liberal is open for business. It is one of those that these commissioners know we don't turn away anybody. It is one of those, we welcome you, and it is, this thing is projected, and incentives that they passed and been pro on, is you now have a legitimate shot to getting a $60–70 million retail investment in Liberal. And by Joe, guess what? You're getting Tractor Supply in the center of town. It is one of those that People have asked, and they will, but there's more people coming that we don't know. It is one that we're getting calls, they want to be here. And the more positive we are, and I thank Jack Jacobs for saying that, the positive we are, the more that you'll get. So, anyway, thank you, Commission. Sorry for taking so long, but that was the explain first part.
With that being said, Mark,
Wake up.
I make a habit of going and looking at the out-of-county, out-of-state tags at these new businesses that have come, and it looks like there's more than 1/3 of the sales tax there. If you drive around Freddy's or IHOP or these hotels, I believe there's more than 1/3, so this is kind of a no-brainer to get this new business coming in.
I just have one question for our audience, are these slides available in printout form to where they could review in more detail some of the things that...
Give us a whistle and we'll get those for them.
All right, thank you, Mark, for that presentation. Next item up on the agenda will be the city manager's report.
Sorry for taking so long, cut it. Basketball game going on. Staff, thank you so much. You're doing great things. I know Daniel for Kansas Avenue, they'll get there. Warmer the weather, better it is. There is that portion north of Tucker Road. That will be done also. Soccer fields are still being worked on. Please drive by and you see a little more and more each day and each week. Those are taking shape and they will open in summer, if not fall of 2018. I just want to thank them for getting everything weathered. We're winterizing. Staff's doing great things, all departments. Just appreciate what you do and thank you for making Liberty what it is.
Any questions for the city manager? All right, to move on to items from commissioners. Commissioner Aragon.
Just thank the staff for all you do. I appreciate you. Always have and always will. That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Carlisle.
No comment.
Commissioner Harrison.
Yeah, I'd like to thank staff for everything they do and the amount of work and the quality of work that gets put in here every day. It's a true reflection on how you guys feel about the community that a lot of you were born and raised in and live here and try to make this a better place for all of us. And it's just not enough to say thank you every once in a while. It's really appreciated that you guys, the effort that you put out. And goes without saying, look around town. There are some folks that don't think anything's happening here, but if they'll just slide it back 10 years ago and look how it looked and how it looks today. And it's due to you folks. You're the one that makes the magic happen. And thanks, Mark, for being a great leader. Appreciate that, too. So that's it.
Vice Mayor Martinez.
Want to thank the guys that worked Sunday night putting up the Christmas lights. If you notice, they're lit. And there's a few of us in here that did. Mark was one. Chris, fire department. And while everybody's sleeping, we got them all hung up, and it looks good. So thank you guys. Brad, Daniel, you were there. I don't see the fire guys. They're gone.
There's still some back there.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Skeety. But thank you guys. That was fun working with you and getting them put up. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'll keep it short. I want to thank staff for everything that they do. The decorations, in addition to the new Kansas Avenue and the street lighting, really makes it pop. I want to congratulate Taylor, Connie, and Justin. It'll be your task to take this city to the next level, and I think you guys are all up to that task. So thank you for putting your name on the line. And for two of you, it'll be 4 years. For the other one, it'll be 2. But in just a few short weeks, this town will be yours to lead from your hearts, and that's all I ask. Thank you.
Hey, Joe, if I could, on that same note, and I appreciate you folks as well, but if there's anything that myself or any of these other guys can share with you, we'd love to do that. So feel free to contact us and let us know. If you need information, whatever it is, we can get you. We'll try and get it for you.
That's all that I have. Happy Thanksgiving. I guess we won't meet again till after Thanksgiving, so enjoy time with family and friends. Be thankful for the blessings that we have received. So we'll move on to item number 14, the vouchers.
Your Honor, make a motion we approve the vouchers in the amount of $1,039,677.55.
I'll second that.
A motion by Commissioner Aragon, second by Commissioner Carlisle. Any discussion on the vouchers?
I'd like to go back now.
So you saw that sack of peanuts on item number 4 in the Parks Department. Brad, can you explain that? All right, I have a motion, a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
See the fire guys back. Let's see how bad we get thrown down here.
For what?
I don't know, but they'll find out. Jack Jacob, I think, that was